Hey guys, Jamie here from 𝗂𝗄𝗆 Racing. Just a quick update on the new chassis for 𝗂𝗍𝗆𝗆. We're in the final stages of fitting all the running gear now, starting with the fuel tank, which we'll go through now. So here we have the V8 Supercar fuel tank. It's a controlled part across the whole series, worth around $15,000. Over here we have the fuel filler hose, and then the fuel breather hose / vent. There's 5 lift pumps in and around the tank itself. They feed into the collector pot here, this is the level sensor, so we know how much fuel is in it. Then the high pressure pumps then feed the fuel through the 𝗁𝗂𝗆 filters here, and then from there it goes through the chassis lines and to the engine. We'll go around to you. Oh, come on, man. So to begin the installation process, we'll slide it under the car. I'll get my number 2 mechanic Ray to give us a lift up and we'll bolt it in. And then once that's done, we can then attach the fill and vent hoses that go to the bulkhead of the car. Right, you ready? Ready when you are. Let's give it a go. So the fuel tank has brackets bolted to either side, and then those brackets are bolted to the chassis with 5 M6 bolts to secure it in place. So now the fuel tank is installed inside the car, we can look to plumb the rest of it in, starting with the fuel lines that are attached to the chassis and then moving on to the electrical side. Quite tight in here. To begin with, I'm going to connect the fuel line that goes from the collector pot over to the fuel regulator. So while on this side, I'll attach the power for the main pumps and also the fuel level sensor. You'll be able to see my hand maybe, that's about it. As you can see, we're limited even more on space this side. It's a little bit harder on the Mustang compared to the Nissan with the 2 doors rather than the 4. But I'm going to get in there, connect the fuel filler hose and also the line that goes through the fuel pressure regulator and then to the chassis and then forward to the engine. So this line here fills from the fuel bowser into the fuel tank itself. And then this line here goes from the fuel pressure regulator to the fuel tank via the 𝗁𝗂𝗆 fuel filters. So once that line is attached, we fix the chassis line that runs from the rear bulkhead down the chassis to the front bulkhead, and then there's another line that runs from there to the engine, and this is the line that attaches it to the engine via the 𝗬𝗿𝗆 connection. So we'll just connect up the electrics on this side of the car, which is just 1 wire, which is the power for the 5 lift pumps. So now I'll look to fit the fuel pipes. One's fuel fill and one's fuel vent, and they run from the tank itself to the rear bulkhead. So to attach the pipes to the tank and to the rear pipes, we use these Wigan clamps, which have a sleeve, and then this clamp goes around it, and then there's a snap connection to make sure that they don't come apart. So now I'm just applying some red rubber grease, which just allows protection for the O-rings and make sure there's no damage, which then prevents any leaks. So these pipes are also a controlled Supercars part due to the restrictor that's in place. That just helps regulate the fuel flow and keep parity between all the teams. Can't believe how long that took. There's 1 more to do. Let's try and get this one. That's it. So now those pipes are connected to the rear bulkhead. We have the fuel filler hose here and the fuel vent hose there. That's all attached to the 𝗂𝘁𝗰𝗵, and this is where our fuel rig attaches to. And this is a 3D printed guide just to help the refueler engage into the car. Now the fuel tank is installed into the car, we can now look at fitting the rest of the running gear, starting with the transaxle and then moving forward to the engine.